Over the past 3.5 years, I've been able to grow a pretty awesome podcast. We've hit number 6 in Australia for personal development and entrepreneurship. I've been able to interview people like Les Brown, Dr. John Demartini, Chris Voss, Mark Victor Hansen, and so many more legends. And one thing that I will say is that it took me nearly 3 years to figure out what it actually takes to grow a proper, thriving podcast and to have it reach well over 1 million people. And in this video, I want to tell you the exact things that I would actually do differently, the things that I've learned along the journey, so that you don't have to take the next 3 to 4 years to figure it out on your own. And no, it's not about having a better microphone, a better camera, or even nailing an amazing guest on your show. In fact, if I had have just watched this video that I'm showing you guys right now, back when I started, then I probably would have a podcast generating over 7 figures a year at least. Now, before I really dive into the things that I'd actually do differently, the things that took me from just getting by as a podcaster, totally stagnant, to now recently, in the last 6 months, doing well over 1 million plays and downloads across all our platforms, it's important to actually understand a little bit more about the podcast industry and is it saturated and is it even worth diving into in 2024? You see, here's the thing. In 2020, when I first started my podcast, there was only 1.1 million podcasts in the world. And the industry had already been going for well over a decade. The Joe Rogans, all these types of people had already been going for well over a decade. And currently right now, when I'm making this episode right here, there's 3.2 million podcasts around the world. It has absolutely freaking exploded in the last few years, but here's the thing. Only 450,000 of them are actually active. Now, when I look at those numbers, the reason I think that there's so many podcasts out there in the world, but there's only 450,000 that are actually active, it comes down to because this one thing. Growing a podcast is actually freaking hard work. It's literally like a business in itself. Mine's exploded so much recently where we're literally thinking about hiring a podcast manager to take care of the bookings and management and all these other types of things that actually come involved with it. And I think a lot of people out there, they get together with their bros and they're like, hey, let's start a bro podcast and talk about all this type of shit. And then they think that they're going to be a lot more interesting than what people actually think they are. They realize that only 5 people listen to their podcast, their mum included, and they quit after 4 episodes, completely doubting themselves, and now they're just going to move on to the next thing. And I'll tell you exactly why in a moment. But before I do, let me tell you why this in itself is actually awesome. Because when I first started my podcast, I put it out there, and there was a lot of people that were, not everybody, but there was a lot of people who were kind of like, what is a podcast? Like 3-4 years ago, it kind of still was a thing that only young people were in, or if you're into personal development or education, you'd be aware of podcasts. Now, the studies are absolutely freaking insane. 73% of Australians say that they listen to one podcast every single week. And in America, that is over 60%. So over 60% of Americans listen to a podcast every single week. So the cool thing right now, if you're looking at this going, wow, there's so many podcasts out there in the world right now. How can I even compete? Is it saturated? Here's the thing. It's even better to start right now because it's already a thing that people are familiar with. Joe Rogan freaking put on the map. Lewis Howes. There's so many incredible podcasts out there that have completely just come onto the scene and exploded onto the market that now make it so freaking normal for people to consume podcasts in their drives to work, walking the dogs, and whatever. So when you launch your podcast and you now say, hey, now we've actually got a podcast and it's out there. People are now familiar. They know where to find it. They know how to download it. A lot of people are looking for new podcasts to actually consume on a regular basis. 1 out of 10 podcasts make more than 10 episodes. So all you really need to do is to be a little bit less than shithouse and actually commit to more than 10 to already be in the top 10%. And then again, only 1% of podcasts make over 15 and have actually found a way to make $1 from it. So it's really not that hard to actually create a podcast and get into the top 1%. You just got to actually commit to it. And I will say this right now, if you're thinking of starting a podcast, do not even do one if you're not prepared to commit to at least 100 episodes. If you're thinking, I'm just going to make 10 or I'm going to make 5, I'm going to sit down with the boys or the girls, I'm going to make a few, don't even bother about it. You're going to waste your money, you're going to waste your time, and you're going to embarrass yourself because you're going to put it out there. You're going to put some piece of shit out there. And people are going to look at it and be like, you're just like everybody else. So commit to at least 100 podcasts. That's going to give you enough time to actually get good at this thing and figure out what works and what doesn't work. When I first started, I said to myself, I'm going to commit to 1,000. So I was prepared for my first 1,000 episodes to be absolutely shithouse because I knew that I would learn more from 1,000 average episodes than I would from not even trying. Because what's going to happen is you're going to suck for a long time before you get any good. unless you do exactly what I'm going to show you now. So I interviewed a guy called Chris Harder, and he's very good friends with Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes has one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And Lewis said to him this. He said, you've got to decide on what podcast you want to grow. The first podcast is either one that you're just going to grow and you're going to put it out there, and it's going to be a great way for you to nurture leads and to make money from it. You're going to funnel these people, these listeners down into your business, and hopefully you have like a high ticket offer or something like that, and you make more money like that in the back end. The second one, if you're not going to do that, is you've got to commit to actually growing a full-blown media company. So in the beginning when I started, I didn't know about this, but I started with a super cheap microphone. I used my Mac camera that was built into it, not even a webcam. I just used the camera that came with it, a shitty microphone, and I did it in my bedroom. I would use Zoom to record it. I'd then send it to a VA overseas that would edit the whole thing and post it up onto Buzzsprout or Anchor, and it would go out there. I still to this day have no idea how to even edit an episode. But here's the thing that I realized when Chris told me that. I realized that I didn't even do either of them. See, when I started, I didn't want to sell things to my audience. I just wanted to put content out there. But what I realized was I didn't commit to building it as a business funnel, and I didn't commit to actually building it as a media business. I did over 250 episodes before I actually committed and decided that I'm going to build this into a media company, which is the second thing that I'd actually do differently if I was to start again. You see, I'd build all of my podcasts to actually go for YouTube first. You see, the problem with just building a podcast only, I did it for years. I'd put it on Apple, I'd put it on Spotify, and neither of those platforms have SEO or an algorithm for your stuff to even get boosted up to the top. So that means that no one can actually find your content unless it's shared word of mouth, which is just wild. But YouTube, however, has a gangster algorithm where if you create amazing content, incredible thumbnails, incredible titles, and you're very strategic with how you actually build it and you know how YouTube works, you can go from 0 to 100 really, really fast, just like I did. Stats have actually come out now and shown that YouTube is the #1 most viewed platform for a podcast. More people would rather consume their podcast by watching it now on YouTube than consuming through Apple or Spotify. And in fact, this is why Spotify has actually now come out and they allow you to put a video on there so you can start to watch it because they're trying to compete with YouTube. YouTube has an SEO, YouTube has an algorithm, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, anyone can actually start on YouTube today if you know exactly how to build on YouTube. So I don't know why it took me so long to actually figure this out because I knew YouTube was so good. I consumed all my podcasts through YouTube, but I wasn't creating video YouTubes to actually put it onto there first. And to be honest, it does require a bit of an investment to really do this quality of video content. So if you're going to start a new business, if you're going to build something for the long haul, it's going to produce you an ROI, you're probably going to want to invest real-time energy and money into it. And I know that not every single one of you may be in the position to do that, which is why I've got an amazing gift I'm going to give you guys actually at the end of this video, so hang around. But the thing is, when I decided to do this back in about March this year, I managed to grow 5 times more subscribers, viewers, and downloads in less than 6 months than what took me 3 years originally to get. So I got 5 times in 6 months than I did in 3 years, because I made this decision and went all in on building YouTube first. So if you're thinking, is it too late for you to actually start a podcast? Absolutely not. You've just got to either make the decision to go, am I going to build this as an incredible podcast to give value to my audience, to nurture them down my funnel? Or do what I did and make the decision to go all in and build a YouTube video podcast first. This is why a lot of people use agencies like Dojo Media who can actually do all of it for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about YouTube, thumbnails, video, getting guests, viral content, or anything like this. People are using agencies now to actually do all of it for you. Dojo Media even gets you ranked as the top 100 in your niche, guaranteed within 7 days as well, because this gives you a credibility and authority straight away. Because let's face it, everyone's got a podcast right now. So when you launch yours, you've got to make sure you freaking launch it so you get the credibility and authority right away in your first week by going top 100. Then they create gangster short form content that will go viral for you that then feeds back into your long form content. This creates an incredible freaking machine for you that's going to generate you millions of views in a very short amount of time. So that being said, I've got an amazing gift for you guys. So you've got to make the decision if you're number 1 person or number 2 person. If you're the first person and you just want to start a podcast, do your best, maybe the budget's not very high right now and you just want to get going so you can make more money, then hit the link below and I've actually got my business partner, Jack, to give you a full mini course training video on how to start your own podcast from scratch without breaking the bank, using artificial intelligence. So you can get that totally for free. Hit the link in the description right now. Or if you're the second person and you've got a business already and you really want to take things to the next level and you want to work with an agency, this is why I co-founded Dojo Media, because I figured out things that actually work and the things that don't work. And what we actually now do is help people like you blow up their podcast without having to do a hell of a lot by leveraging our team, our systems, and our strategy. So if you're a second person and you really want to blow things up, what I'm going to give you guys is hit the link below as well. And there's another link there that we're going to give you a free 30-minute consultation where we want to map out your entire podcast idea, your business funnel, and how this is actually going to bring more revenue into your business. And if we think we can help you, we can tell you a little bit more about how we can work together. Otherwise, you're going to leave there with a hell of a lot more information to start your own podcast anyway. So if you're number one or number two, hit one of the links below right now and either get your free mini course or a free consultation, and we'll see if Dojo Media can also help you guys. And if you're in your head right now about starting a podcast and you're too concerned about what other people might think of you and that imposter syndrome thing's creeping in, go ahead and watch this video right here, because I made a video literally telling you how to not give a about what other people think of you. Go ahead and watch this right now. Otherwise, hit the link below and go and get some free content.